You are welcome on in. It's an absolute privilege and a pleasure to have you in your ear, to be in your ears for this episode. And we're joined by a long time OG friend of the show, a lady who is, it's hard to even know. Listen, we could go on and on and on and embarrass her with an introduction, but it's a privilege and a pleasure to have fast hands Niamh Fay joining myself and Ian on this episode. And Niamh has been back. It seems a long. I'm making you sound old, Niamh, by give this introduction. But how long is it now? We're chatting in quite a while.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think back myself. I won the under 18s at 17 years of age, so I'm 23 now, so it's definitely been a while.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that was around the same time as I just kicked it off. And I think at the time, it's funny. I was chatting to his fella in work today, and we was talking about how did you get into boxing, and what is it about boxing? And I'm like, I still can't answer those questions because there's so many times you walk away thinking, no more. I'm done with it. I've had enough. But it just gets its claws in, even it never lets you go, does it?
no, exactly. That, like you said, it gets a teeth into you, and you just can't get. Yeah, you can't stop. No, like that. We've got Tony Davitt down in the club, and like that, he's. No, I don't want to say what age. I don't want to get myself in trouble as well. But he's definitely been around.
That's
but,
a, that's gas because I literally only spoke to Danny Keating there over last week, and Danny had spent a lot of time. And anybody ever, whether it's Ray Moylett, whether it's Danny, whether it's Dennis, anyone you speak to, every single one of them referred to Tony as the godfather of Irish boxing. What a man!
yeah, he's a legend. So he is. He definitely is.
So
Um,
he's based with you guys now, and he's training and he's looking after you guys.
Yeah, so he's very much involved in it. So I'm actually in a new club now, Phoenix of Ballyboughal. So like that, it has a bit of a poetic name. My dad used to box with Tony in Phoenix at the time when the
Wow.
club was open, and
So
now
it's all come full circle. So
yeah, exactly. So now, like that, we call the Phoenix of Ballyboughal because there used to be a club in Ballyboughal and it closed down. So like that, that's rising from the ashes, and then also a tribute to like that to Tony.
Love it. I
Uh,
love it. There's not much hesitance. I mean, people, again, we're going to give a crash course for anyone that might be new, and it's not to assume that everybody knows. If you don't know who Tony David is, go look him up because there's not many amateurs that haven't passed through Tony's hands. He's been to Olympics, he's been to World Championships, he's been to Europeans. If there's been a row in a car park, I'd safely say Tony has been at it over the years, probably working a corner at some point as well. And I don't mean that in any way bad, but he's worked with fellas like Sean Turner. He's had Sinead Kavanagh. He's had just the most incredible record of people who and he's one of the very few, and you will be able to vouch for this, Niamh. There's not many people in boxing who people don't have a bad word to say about. Somewhere along the line, you've picked up someone who's going to say or wish you to be knocked out or beaten. But Tony Davitt's one of the few who has
yeah.
people just he's just loved everywhere in the game, isn't he?
He's an absolute gent, so he is, and like that, he's very much buying morals, and you can just see that he loves the sport. He breathes the sport. You know what I mean? And you can see it in him, and like that, he's there for everybody. Whoever he has his time, he gives his time to everybody, and he makes sure that you know what I mean. He gives you his best. So like that, he's a pleasure to have in the club. It really is an honor.
and like that with a brand new club, Neve. Obviously, with having Tony there is fantastic, and obviously having yourself there is brilliant as well. Are you giving a dig out and taking a few classes yourself, or are you?
Yeah, so I'm definitely on the I have the up and coming class. So I have the 5 to 8 year olds.
Oh, brilliant!
Yeah. So that's why I'm laughing at some of them. I'm looking like I'm nearly me 30 years of age by the time these are boxing, so I'm not in a hurry. but, but
Isn't it
they are
crazy though how
brilliant.
quick time goes, isn't it? It's like, and you know what it is, Neve, and I suppose we're going to touch on this. And there's so many different areas we can like. The pro game at the moment is in what I would call a holding pattern. There's not a whole lot, and I think there's a lot of lads and ladies shaking their tail towards Saudi Arabia or this new money that comes into boxing. And listen, we're going to keep this positive for the most part, but I suppose your experience, you've been like you came through. I mean, I'll never forget those scenes of your dad, and big shout out to Jerry's your dad, isn't he? Of course, and
Oh,
long
yeah.
suffering coach. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I was explaining. I was just making sure I got the name right, but I was explaining to Ian the scenes
Yeah.
when you won that European medal. You just have to see it to believe it. It only seems like yesterday, and in the blink of an eye, you're a coach. You're not quite finished yet. You've got some goals left to achieve
Yeah.
yourself. But can you remember this age group, Niamh? Can you remember how much it's changed in this era that we're in now? And when you were trying to make your way along, as there wasn't many doors open, was there?
No, there wasn't. That's what I even remember my first Europeans. I was actually 15 years of age, but that was the last year that it was a female only team. for underage and a male only team. So now we've got schoolgirls. I missed that, so I did. But there we have schoolgirls, and like that now when we're going away as a team, it's a team of boxers. It's not male or female. It's schoolgirls and schoolboys going together, which is just phenomenal. You know what I mean? It really promotes the sport for both male and female, and
Yeah.
like that it shows that you are a boxer, not your gender. You know, I think as well for boxing, even though it's new to females, I feel like it's quite progressive at the same time, because under such a short period of time, it has changed. Like that, even going from the 2 minutes and then into the 3 minutes rounds. You know what I mean? It's been progressing the whole time, which I think is again phenomenal for women. And then again, you obviously have to Katie Taylor, Kelly Harton, and all paving the way. You know what I mean? It's brilliant to see.
Yeah, we've been very lucky to have the high profiles of Katie and Kelly, I suppose, giving young girls the opportunity and the role models to look up to join their local boxing club and get involved, even if it's just as a keep fit measure, because I absolutely loved that part of it. There was no better fitness regime than boxing, and that's one of the other reasons why I fell in love with it as well. I've piled all the way back on, but it's certainly, it still sticks with me now as the training and obviously the people that you meet in the club as well.
It's coming. The championships coming to it's coming to seniors time of the year, Ian. We're training for the elites. It's coming up shortly, man. It's not too late. It's not too late. You got to get yourself into the gym with fast hands there, and with Tony Davitt. Tony will knock those pounds off you in no time.
Oh yeah. Sounds good.
But
Sounds good.
All joking aside, I mean, I remember speaking my enthusiasm for the amateur game. It wanes at times because frustration, and this is from somebody who looks. I mean, my memories of the senior championships were back in a time, and it doesn't seem that long ago, when Kenneth Egan, when Darren Sutherland, when we were going to see John Joe Joyce, when we were going to see John Joe Nevin, we were going to see Darren O'Neill. It was just like seniors night in the stadium. And look, seniors night in the stadium is it's a strange place, the stadium, and I'm sure, Niamh, you can vouch for all your greatest and probably some of your worst memories are probably all linked into that one place. But talk to us. It's changed a lot, and the face of amateur boxing right now, it's in something of a transitional phase, isn't it?
Yeah, like that. I remember my first elite championships was actually just after COVID, so there was nobody in the place. You could hear the drop of a pin. You know what I mean? It was absolutely crazy. And like you're saying, I remember going in as a young girl and you couldn't get a seat. You know what I mean? So unfortunately for me, the elites didn't match that expectation, the very first time. And I think now, unfortunately, it's kind of the same, to be honest with you, that it's not as many goers into the stadium as you'd like to see, you know what I mean, which is unfortunate, because like that, you still have them big names, you know, and the boxing's still at that good level or really high standard, you know, so it would be nice to kind of see that coming back around a bit more, I think.
Yeah, well, that's a friend of mine works down in Swinford in Mayo, and one of the lads that he works with, Rashid, was in the semi-final at the weekend.
Yeah.
So the weekend before last, and I said, "Oh, best of luck to him, you know, and give him my number. We'll have a yap with him afterwards." And I found it very, very difficult to actually find a live stream or even to get the results and things like that. And I just felt, well, you know, for a national championship, it should really be shouted from the rooftops. Listen, this is the IABA. This is where you go. This is where you get your results. Even, you know, and hopefully that will increase as the next Europeans, Worlds, and Olympic cycle comes along, and they can maybe get their act together a little bit that way. But I was really, really disappointed with the coverage I was given for it. As I said, I'd love to see a little bit more given for the people involved as well, and obviously a bigger crowd means more atmosphere. Now, when you just spoke there, Niamh, about fighting during COVID and being absolutely quiet as a mouse, which do you kind of prefer? Do you prefer somewhere that's raucous or quiet? Because obviously, if it's quiet, you might be able to hear your corner better.
I know, definitely the crowd. 100%, like you're saying, you're after training so hard and everything, you know what I mean? it's the atmosphere, it's the fun of it all, you know, and which I always find kind of funny with myself. Like I would kind of say that I'm a shy person, and if you put me in a room full of people, I just stay in the corner, you know. But
Yeah.
then in the ring, it's a whole different thing because the confidence, you know what I mean. I know I've trained hard and everything, and this is the fun, you know. I'm not going to say I don't like training. Obviously, I like training, but that's not the fun part. The fun part is going in and like that,
Yeah.
hearing the supporters, hearing the crowd, and the atmosphere. You know, it really is. And
So you really love the ring walk then? That's your yeah.
exactly.
Oh, we're getting there. We're getting there. Trust me, we're coming to that part. This is my
Okay.
favorite. This is my favorite part. But I'm biting my hand here. I promised before we went on there. I promised. I said I'd leave this. I'd leave the controversy to my pal now, Matthew Tyndall, who, man, if and listen, there's certain things I always there's certain rules I live by. It's like don't say anything about someone that you're not going to be able to say when you're standing beside them, because there's too many people in this new era of social media, of internet, and everything else. Not to mention the coaches and the trainers who want to make it about themselves. I've always been unequivocal in saying that without what you girls and guys do, we have nothing to talk about. And if you don't know what it feels like to be in the middle of a ring with tasting your own blood and your legs won't work and you don't know how to get out of the way of what's coming at you, well, even just to be able to feel that and know what that feels like gives you a little bit of an idea how the value of a minute when you get back to that ring and how quick, Jesus, that was, can I have another one? Can I have another one? So, but I'm going to touch on something you're talking there about the pact. And I always refer to the greats who went before. We were really lucky to speak to Wayne McCullough here a few times. We speak to Nicholas Cruz. We speak to the likes of Tony David a couple of times. We've spoken to Dennis. I spoke to Alex Arthur. It's something across the amateur board. Across Alex Arthur speaks to Alex's son, of course. Macklin boxes for Scotland and Scottish boxing, and it's something. I suppose it's a marketing thing at the moment it's lacking across the board. And I don't know, is it getting lost between the stools by transitioning from the governing bodies and all that went with that? I don't want to get into that minefield, that is for sure, because I don't even know if anybody knows where that's going. But I always refer to the great Mick Dowling, and he talks about when the boxing internationals and when they have the test matches, when Ireland would box England or Ireland would box Russia or Ireland would box. Niamh, you've seen those test matches. They nearly all go on behind closed doors now, but they're probably as good, if not better, than most events we would look at. I mean, some undercards we look at on a Saturday night, I just pull my hair out. The little bit that I have, I pull it out. So you've seen these test matches. You've been involved in them. They're top quality. Is there a reason, do you think, or the public would, apart from giving us entertainment and thrilling us watching this talent that's coming through, it would also get you guys and the younger girls and guys used to boxing in front of full houses, wouldn't it?
100%. Speaking on the test matches, we had Ukraine came over to Roscommon, and the Irish team were down in Roscommon, and Kelly Harrington was part of it, and I was part of it as well with myself. But like that, the atmosphere there was phenomenal. Like that, I think the girls from Roscommon, Lisa O'Rourke and Aoife O'Rourke, you know what I mean? They bring such a crowd and like that as well. In such a community like that, the place was packed. And like you're saying, it just, the buzz was something else. The lights, the whole lot. And like that,
Yeah.
even then, the Ukrainians, it was obviously such a buzz for them. So I think something like that would definitely be of benefit to all boxers, you know. It did. And it was it was one of the most enjoyable, you know what I mean? Because it's an individual sport, but like that time I did feel like I was walking out with Kelly. I felt like I was walking out as a team, you know, and it brings that kind of community together as well, that they're your team Ireland, you know, and it's against Ukraine, you know what I mean? And it was brilliant. Both sides were, they're their own team, their own one, you know, and it was just a really good atmosphere.
We talk about walking outs, we talk about ring walk. They got very close to it with the WBSS a few years ago, where they were able to pick international teams and they were kind of flirting the lines between professional and amateur. And it was starting to look forward to it. And hopefully we can get back to that. As say, this could and should be a fresh start for amateur boxing and a chance to where it's going to go in terms of Olympic places and everything else. That's for other people higher up the chain, I suppose, to deal with and to handle. But we something I was alluding to just before we went on air there, and we chatted to Ian, and it's something that I thought for a long time you were joking with me. But Niamh, talk to us about the routine before fights and before everything. And this is something that's going back 6-7 years, probably longer. But I'm sure a lot of our listeners that have heard you in the past will probably say, come on, seriously, you're kidding me. But talk to us a little bit about your routine and your ritual.
Well, I have to maybe start from the toes up. We'll go with my odd socks or something that I wear. So the balloon is pink and Olympus yellow odd socks. And that kind of stemmed from me being very indecisive. I was wearing both socks with my dad, and I came in and I was like, "What do you think?" He's like, "Brilliant." But I was asking which sock do you prefer? But he's like, "That looks deadly." And I was like, "No, no, no, which sock?" He's like, "What do you mean? Like, that's the look, you know?" So that was that. Then I have nerves like as well going into the ring, but to suffer with my nerves, I eat blue bonbons.
That's where the blue was coming from, is it?
Yeah.
That's it. You've heard it here again, folks.
Well, basically, you're walking out and your tongue is just blue, and you look like an alien, basically, with the.
Exactly. She's looking like this one doesn't know what she's at. Blue tongue, odd socks. But it came from like that same thing. I was always nervous getting in as a child, and my dad used to tell me, "Sugar will help you," you know. If it worked or not, I still don't know, but it's something that I use now as a placebo effect. So like that, I always have my blue bonbons now when I'm going in, and so much so that as well, the girls even on the Irish team now, it was my birthday just there, and like that they're buying me blue bonbons and everything. Everybody knows.
I said it the last time. I've said it every time we speak. I'm saying it again. If there is a confectionery manufacturer out there in this country that wants to sponsor one of the up and coming Irish talents, this is your opportunity, because when it gets there and she hits the top, lads, it's too late. You want to sponsor this girl for her blue bonbons. This is it. You've got the chance here. And Ian, I know what you're thinking. No, this is not what I'm at. This is for Niamh. This is not for me. Ian has a term.
I'm glad you said that, Al. Glad you said
Ian
that.
has a term of endearment that he uses for me, Niamh. I'll message you later on and explain, but it starts with W and ends with E, and there's an O or in the middle of it. And he constantly calls me a whore. I'm not being that at all.
No. You're a media whore. That's what I mean. You're not a whore. You're a media whore. Alan just seems to have the gift of the gab and will fly off a text here, there, and everywhere, see how people are doing and things like that. And all of a sudden, okay, can you get on? Can you get online? We're talking to this chap, or Niamh is on this evening, and let's go. So no, it's said with affection rather than anything else.
It's been yeah, you're getting a little bit of the behind the scenes there thing, because poor Ian came in from the cold a few years last year, and it was a breath of fresh air and brought a whole new look to it. But at the same time, I do have to stop and think, am I really throwing him in at the deep end here? Because here I'm just, and it feels like I have to be comfortable with somebody before I speak about who I'm speaking to. So I can say it here on air as well. I was watching the boxing the other night, and I sent Ian a screenshot. Here, look, David Easton wants to know, can we have a chat? And I'm like, nah. The thrill for me will never go out with speaking to people like you, Niamh, speaking to people like Ella Thompson, speaking to Wayne McCullough. The day the thrill goes out for me is the day I'll turn that laptop off and never turn it back on, because I believe there's a good side to this sport that's not told enough, that we hear too much of the negativity. And something you touched on there a few moments ago was that relationship with your dad as a coach, and that relationship. We've seen it with Stephen O'Rourke. We've seen it with Cliff Thompson. We've seen it with quite a lot over the years. Talk to us a little bit about it and the intricacies of it, and how it can be awkward. How can we're not asking you to give away the family secrets, but
how do you still get on, basically, is what I was talking about.
Is there still an opportunity to turn around and die? You're fucking annoying me now, stop. Or is it coach the minute you step in that door?
That probably is the worst, like that being so close. I can tell him to go, you know what I mean? And vice versa. But I think we have that really good relationship, you know what I mean, between boxing. So we try our best. Now, boxing, I think, is related to everything. We talk about the grass growing, and all of a sudden the conversation is going back to boxing, you know. But we try our best not to. So in the house, we do try our best to like that. Forget about the boxing, but like that. And then as soon as we come into the club, it's turning on, you know. But like that though, the trust that I have in him, like every their trust is in their coach.
I was just going to say that whatever about the trust, but you know that the love and support is completely unconditional there as well. So you know whatever happens, he's in your corner, so to speak, and we'll be doing his best for you, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it. Just a little funny story. I don't know how he'll feel about me, but like that, he'd be coaching the kids at the club. You know what I mean? And he'd be reassuring the parents and say, "Don't worry, I won't do anything that I wouldn't do for my own daughter." But but one of the parents said, "Don't take that as comfort." You know what I mean? I've seen what he fucking does to his daughter.
There's not much he didn't ask you to do. Just go in there with that Russian. Go over there with that unbeaten Russian with a beard and go and fight her.
exactly like that. 12 years of age. I think he drove me all the way down to Mayo. We were in the middle of nowhere, like that. Got straight in, box got out, and gave me a can of Coke for me troubles. You know, but that's the joys of it, though. It really is. You know, it's yeah. I'm very lucky to have him in the corner. So I am.
Again, and again, these are the stories, and I'm trying to highlight these as much as possible. We're going to chat with Cliff and Ella. We're going to chat with Alex and his son. We're going to chat with some of the because Stephen and Ryan and because you only ever hear about the negativity. You only hear about Daniel Dubois and his dad and how when it goes wrong. And that's listen. There's always a chance for when that goes and when you're at that level and you're but the difference again, as Jamie Conlon always says to us, is that the difference between boxing and amateur boxing and pro boxing is like pool and snooker. It's a total different sport. The amateur is far more. There's a different environment. There's a different mentality. There's a different ethos, and it's a total different approach. But the one thing that remains the same, and it transfers across all the time, because you could be an accomplished, you could be a superstar amateur, and we've seen it at times. And I scratch my head wondering, they've got all the credentials, they've got all the components, they've got all the medals, they've got everything, and sometimes for whatever reason, it just doesn't transfer across. There's no guarantees, but the one thing that does guarantee is the importance of a role model. Niamh, you came into a setup, and I remember speaking that you came through in a wave with the likes of Dana, with the likes of Casey, with the likes of Caitlin. Evelyn Agaro, to me, to this day, is one of the great secrets of Irish boxing, and I keep saying it to her. I said, just go pro. And she's too intelligent to go pro. That girl has brains coming out of her brains. If you ever in to watch the style, it's my days. It's just anyway. Listen, we'll talk about Evelyn another day. We're here, but you look up to people like Katie Taylor, and all of a sudden you're on the same level. You look up to somebody who, in my opinion, she should run for president. I genuinely mean Kelly Harrington. If you get this, if you're listening to this, there's an opening there for presidency. There won't even be an election race. It will be a done deal right now. And I don't want to be your campaign manager. You got it all yourself. Talk to us about coming in, the intrepidation of coming into a setup, and then all of a sudden being in there, and how quickly does it just become normal, or does it ever become normal that she's always going to be your skipper, is she?
I think so. Something like that. When I first came into the high performance, I was 19 years of age, and like that, you are watching them from afar. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, you're in with them, and it's kind of that transition period. They're like, "Am I meant to be in here?" and all that kind of stuff. So you have to kind of build your own self belief, own self confidence. Then all of a sudden, we're away on trips together. She's talking to you as if you're normal, and you're like, "Kelly, sure." You know what I mean? Kelly's just Kelly. You know what I mean? And she would really be like that. You know what I mean? She's just the most humble person that you'd ever meet. You know what I mean? Same with Katie. You know what I mean? You wouldn't know, and I think that's something that does go between all the greatest, that they are just so humble, and you wouldn't know who they are. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. But like that, then like that, we went over to the European Championships just there in 2024 in Serbia, and all of a sudden, I'm after winning a bronze medal, and Kelly Harton's after winning a bronze medal in the European Championships, and like that for me, it just lands so like there it lands. You're like, wow, you have to take that step back and go, oh my God, like, yeah, I was training with Kelly, and all of a sudden now we're both on the podium. You know, it's I don't even know how to explain it, you know what I mean? Because even at that stage, now I'm still young, but it was only 21 years of age, and then all of a sudden your self belief comes in like that okay, I am meant to be here. But as well, we're all running our own race. I'm still on the bags doing my own thing. She's still on the bags doing her own thing, and like that, then we do come together as a team when needs be, you know, cheering each other on, and like that as well. It's like a ripple effect in there in the high performance, you know, when everybody's training hard, we're all in good spirits and we're all training hard, you know. So it really is. I feel like that boxing is such an individual sport, but to me, you're very much a team, very much a team.
There's some real characters in that new team at the moment, but the rivalry has always been there. And I'd speak to Tyrone, I speak to Tommy McCarthy, and it goes back. And the one thing, all those Nordies, and I say this with a real love for them, and you can tell me if the girls are the same, but the one thing they dread the most is that drive down the motorway on a Monday to come down. They do not like coming down. Talk to us about the importance of having a really good bond, because you've got some real characters. I mean, I only know them. I always tell Casey she's what do I tell her? She has the Tracy Pickett of Irish boxing. She can speak Irish. She can speak with her very nice Greystones accent, or she can get in there and she can beat the absolute bejesus out of whoever steps in front of her. She's just got you're very similar. You're very polished. You're able to communicate. You're able to make your point. But make no mistakes, when that bell goes in, you're losing your head, and I'm losing I'm losing everything. So there's a fantastic camaraderie there. But this time of the year, it starts getting towards everybody's got an eye on the same thing, don't you? So does that get frayed at times? Does it get tricky? Or are you just around long enough now to be able to put that where it needs to be?
I think like that it comes with maturity. Like that you start to realize at the end of the day, this is just a sport, you know, and like that they're my opponents, they're not my enemies, you know what I mean? And but again, it comes with maturity because like that when you're younger, you're coming in, you're like, I have to show this person that I eat nails for breakfast, you know what I mean? Like you don't want to mess with me kind of thing, you know?
Who
But
knows?
exactly. But all of a sudden you realize that we're all just people at the end of the day, you know what I mean? We're all somebody's daughter, we're all somebody, you know what I mean? We're all looking forward to going home and having that Chinese, you know what I mean? Talking to our moms, talking to our dads. So like that at the end of the day, it is just a sport. But I think again, I used to play football, but like that you'd have that kind of camaraderie there, you know what I mean? Like you don't talk about the next village and all that kind of, not hate, but you know what I mean? Yeah. But I think like that in boxing, I think that's one of the reasons, like you're saying, many reasons, but one of the reasons why I just fell in love with it. Like that you're nearly shaking hands at the start, hugging each other at the end of the bout, you know what I mean? No matter who's won or lost, because like that at the end of the day, you know how much hard work they've put in if they bet you, you know what I mean? And you know how much work you've put in too. So it's the beauty of the sport, I think, at times.
We're coming to the World Championship.
Very eloquent.
Yeah. She's boxing clever here now. She's boxing really well. I may text Matthew Tyndall and get him to come in because he'll throw a cat among the pigeons. But no, listen, I understand it as much as there's still a large part of this, and as close as I get to it, there's times I look at and you do get a natural affinity or a natural connection with certain fighters. And look, as much as I get, and Ian touched on it a little bit earlier on, as much as he likes to refer to it as an old whoring trait, it's something that I do try to do. Something I've tried to do from day one without being a pain in the backside is tormenting, but at the same time, not just come looking to people when you want something, so that, everybody wants to talk to this lad fight week. So whether you're fighting this week or next week or the week after, or whether you might see something, or you might say, and you might just send a little, hey, house tricks, and not even expect or demand a reply. And I think that makes a difference in this sport because it's a very solo, it's a very individual, and people think, as you said, there's a lot of ideas out there that you girls and guys are eating nails. And I often go back to the story of Billy Schwer, where he had lost his world title, and he'd 80 stitches or something. He was getting 80 stitches in his eyes, and internal and external. And he said the one thing that annoyed him the most, the one thing that was hurting him, that had niggled him the whole way through the fight, and that was annoying him still in the ambulance on the way to the hospital as they were giving him the needles, he cut his toenails too short that morning, and it was digging into the corner of his toe. And that was the one thing that was annoying. And I just thought, man, the idea of 80 stitches in my whole life is enough to give me anxiety. And he's thinking these stitches, no. So you're very complex characters, but you're very simple characters at the back of it all. You still go through the same daily routines as the rest of us, don't you?
Exactly, that's it, 100%. Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there. Exactly. You know what I mean?
Ian, as a big time, I suppose, supporter, and we want well, look, we can be fan, we can be supporters. I mean, Pat Ryan, the great Pat Ryan from Portlaoise, introduced me to Katie Taylor many years ago, before she hit the big scene as such. And we had gone down to watch Simone was playing for Kildare at the time, and we went down in a camp, and there was a phenomenal test match between Ireland and England. Amanda Coulson was the coach at the time. Tasha Jonas was fighting for England. Chantal Cameron was fighting for England at the time. Stacey Copeland. Katie was captain of the team. We had Christina McMahon. We had Kelly Harrington. I still wonder, I have the program there, and I just take photos of it and send it just to prove that I'm not making this up. But Pat Ryan told me then, I have the real $1 million baby here, Al. I have the real $1 million. And you know, when I talk Pat Ryan, you know that's how he sounds. Ian, talk about the importance from, I suppose, watching her, and the belief, having your own young daughter, and the belief that it gives somebody who's not necessarily wrapped up in the boxing, as we tend to drive everybody mad talking boxing. I get the eyes roll now, and they just leave the room when I start talking about it. But from a point of view of an aspect, the importance of a Katie Taylor and what these girls are doing, it's massive, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's phenomenal. My daughter's 13 and pain in my ass. But one of the few things that we actually have in common at the moment is that she absolutely adores Katie Taylor. Absolutely adores her. She's seen everything that she's done, because believe me, her mom is an absolute Katie Taylor nut as well. And we're going down to Glen Eagles in January to have an evening with Katie, and
He
she
calls
was
me a
gutted.
whore.
She was gutted that we couldn't get her a ticket because it was an over 16s event. Going absolutely ballistic. But if the one thing that she gets out of that is an admiration for someone who does so much good for not even other boxers, but for other women. I'm delighted to be a very small part of encouraging that.
Yeah, it's incredible. Niamh, as a coach now, you're not. I don't even like talking about, because coaching to me, you kind of infers at times that there's looking at the door over there, and maybe the career that's not on now, because we've got senior titles and everything. There's plans for Niamh Faye, there's plans for Team Fast Hands, right? So let's not even start. You're helping Tony, and you're learning from Tony.
What's up next?
No, I'm just making myself feel better, because I don't even want to think about those days yet, because we've got senior titles on, we've got senior elites, and we've got Irish titles, and we've got, listen, that's before we even talk professional. Niamh, I'm not even telling you what to do. I'm just thinking out loud here. But in terms, oh Jesus, I'm thinking out loud again here. Pause. But no, in terms of a I suppose a society thing now, and you've gone through the phase where it was, when you'd say when probably, and I'm sure you can vouch for this, so you can attest to this, like growing up, and you'd say, yeah, what do you play sport? You're in school, and you tell your teacher, yeah, I'm a boxer, and I can just see the look. I can imagine you're what? It's not like that anymore, is it? It's been accepted. But do you think it could be maybe introduced a little bit more? Because it's something I've often thought about, was in some way, shape, or form to roll it out in schools, or try and pilot it in schools, and particularly in this day and age, take the sport out of it. The self-defense and a safety point of view for young girls in this country right now, it's never been needed more than ever, has it?
No, like you're saying though, for me it was the confidence. Like that in school, I would have been so quiet. They'd be looking, and I'd be saying I'm a boxer, and they say your one's a boxer. Would you stop? You know what I mean?
Come over here.
Yeah, but it's the truth. You know what I mean? And they would be looking at me, but I think for me it's the confidence. You know what I mean? It's the confidence knowing that I can get into that ring and I can take on this one person, and know that I've put in all the work, all the things, that yeah, I can stand up in front of the class and do a presentation. It's not as daunting anymore. Nothing's gonna be
Yeah,
as scary
good
as
point.
getting into that ring, you know. So I think, like you're saying, take out that sports, or take out the competitive aspect. I think for everybody to have like that, the confidence knowing self defense, but also the confidence of knowing that, yeah, just knowing that you can play this sport, that it takes a lot, you know what I mean? Because I thought you've got the discipline. It builds your character. I thought I know I'm disciplined. I know that I'm committed. I know that I'm ambitious. I know that I can deal with setbacks. There's a lot more to the sport, and a lot more that I've learned from the sport than just how to throw a jab. You know, it's yeah. I think it would be very
Not a
beneficial
bad
for.
job, though.
Yeah, as they
Not
say,
a bad job.
yeah,
No,
as they say,
bad
it
job.
builds character.
But it is.
It's a
the
dying art,
confidence.
the job. It's the backhand. The backhand offense is starting to come in everywhere. And I'll tell you, the first person ever told me that was another. And again, I get lost in these now. Again, I'll never forget, or I'll never forget how lucky I am to talk to someone like Jimmy Halpin. And he talks about going on a scout. I think he called it a scouting or a coaching, coaching, whatever it was, a few years ago with Zor. And he said that they realized then that the Eastern Bloc countries were starting to introduce the backhand offense. So they were starting with a backhand instead of like jab to get in, and then. And I was like, I'm going to pretend I know what he's talking about now, and then I'm going to go off and look at it. But when you hear someone like Jimmy Halpin explain something, it's a little bit like Tony Davitt. Is there a danger? And I don't want to offend anybody by saying this, but I leave that again to people who are good at offending. Well, I'm not bad at offending, but I try not to do it too often. But there's a difference. There's a noticeable difference in the way the old school coaches and the new school coaches operate, isn't there? It's not all. Is there? Can you know? Am I making sense? Is there anything obvious that's changing? And because the coaching game will forever change, but at the level that you girls and guys are operating at, it's a fine art, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think it's more kind of the different aspects of rest and recovery. I'd say more knowledge on nutrition. Because I always remember my dad saying like, when like that he'd be making weight, and he's like, I just cut out bread, you know what I mean, and I just starved myself, and that then put on a bin bag, you know what I mean. But there's a
Yeah.
lot more education now where you don't have to starve, you know what I mean. Thank God. I don't think I'd last too long in the sport then, but I think it's more the education on them things. Like that the recovery, sometimes less is more, you know. You don't need to be doing Rocky style baiting meat and all with your bare fist, you know, to be the best.
Speaking of which, that's where I thought Alan was going when he was talking about old school and new school coaches. All I had in my head was Rocky and Ivan Drago, one in the big shiny
Chasing chickens around the
and
yard.
the other out with the rocks and the mountains, you know, and the snow. But there we go.
Yeah, exactly. So
I'm
we don't need
going to
to
tread carefully on this one, and
Mm.
I'm going to tread carefully on this one. And something I have written down is, and they're not. I'm after just joining them there now in concentric circles. Is I suppose pathways and frustrations, and I think you could probably put the two of them in the same link, because there's a lot of you guys and girls, and when we talk about Mickey Hawkins explained it to me once. He says that they would see Holy Trinity. Sorry, I keep getting that. I could not get who our names mixed up, but Holy Trinity. They see it as a finishing school. So they would see it as they do all their winning at underage, and then they come to them to be seniors and elites. And we see it made sense when he explained it to me. But he also explained that it worries him when he sees a lot of fighters winning lots and lots and lots of Irish titles at underage, and then all of a sudden you start to see that drop off. There's probably no one reason, and there isn't, because you can deal with weights, you can deal with competition, you can deal with levels, you can deal with changing as an athlete, you can deal with finding styles and everything else. But I suppose, which would be the pathway? Is it as clear as it used to be? Very clear from outside observers like myself and like people who would watch it, and you say, look, you win your Irish title, you're guaranteed a shot at the qualifiers. And this is something that gets lost it's not the case anymore. And I think people need to realize that now, that you got to get selected, and to be selected, you got to be performing regularly and competing regularly. That gets frustrating at times as well, I'm sure, because you're all in your own right. It is you have a team, but you're all individuals as well, and you're there for that reason. It gets tough, I'd say, at times, does it?
I would say, yeah, it is tough. Like that as a
I'm not
child.
trying to get you in trouble now, I promise.
No, I know. Like that as a child, it's easy. Like that, your hands either raised or it's not. You know, and there's no grey area. But unfortunately, there is a grey area then introduced. You know what I mean? And it's not what you're used to. You're used to the black and white. I won, I didn't, and now this grey area is kind of there. So it's kind of hard to wrap your head around, because like that, I've been boxing since I'm 11 years of age, and that's the way it was all the way up until you're 18, and then all of a sudden it's after changing within a short period of time. So it's a little bit difficult to get your head around. All right.
And the pathway in itself is, as I said, the grey area. And listen, I'm fully accepting and understanding that the grey area deserves to be kept grey for that small team, for that small unit in the elite. That's listen, it's like any other, because it's amateur in name only. It's a professional outfit operating at professional levels, doing things that people wouldn't even. You just can't comprehend. So these guys and girls are living professional lives as an amateur, while everybody else is going about their daily job. They're living, they're working, they're getting to go home to their families in the evening, while you're going to a 12 by 12 room. And listen, hotels are grand now and then, but I'm sure after a while that those walls start getting closer and closer. But the pathway is one thing. The frustrations of having to manage, I suppose, the expectations, and the biggest expectations, I'm guessing, were only ever going to come from you, because you're a twice European champion, you're a European bronze medalist, you're a multiple Irish champion. You got to learn that, I'd say. And as you said, becoming a young adult as well, moving into young womanhood, I'm sure you have hopes and dreams as well. Something I saw you're getting really good at doing is your social media, and showing that you've got a life outside of boxing too. But does it get out too often? Does that life get to exist happily, or is it like the scruffy cousin that's over there and doesn't get out too often?
Yeah, like that. I used to, so I'd be saying, right, boxing is my life. Now boxing has to live with my life, if that makes sense. It has to complement it.
Yeah.
Now, like you're saying, I can say I can complement it, but that doesn't mean I can still go out drinking. Boxing's still the life, you know. But it's just like that. I think I've been conditioning my own self. Always something that reminds me, or I remember going before the under 18s and winning the gold medal. The week before, I just burst down to my dad and I just started crying. And I was like, Dad, I'm just not ready. This is just not going to work in the whole lot. And he goes, what the fuck? Like, you're trying to be Godzilla. You're grand, you know? So, or you're trying to beat Godzilla, like, you know what I mean? So then anyways, like that, I won the gold medal and all the rest. And I went, no, Dad, I was training to be Godzilla, you know? So it's, yeah. But it's finding that ground, that like that you can't be so hard on yourself all the time. Yeah, okay, you do need to push yourself and all the rest, but you have to know the times where you're going, Niamh, you've done enough. You did your 5K. Why do you need to do your 5K in 20 minutes? You did it in 21. It was still a good time, you know. So it's kind of finding that edge. Yeah, okay, you still want to improve, and like that, yeah, you have to improve, but it's just not beating yourself up. You've got enough people that are going to do that for you, but don't join them, you know.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like, and there again, that's another little insight into the back of. So before that might explain a little bit. It was a more of a release of emotion as well as joy when you did run across that ring. There's the incredible little behind the scenes things that nobody sees. I mean, everybody, again, you assume that that they get used to this. Is it safe to say, Niamh, when you get to that level and you're walking to the ring to fight a Kazakh or a Uzbek or a Russian or a Ukrainian, you probably never get used to that, will you? It'll always be nerves and emotions, and it's a case of managing everything and then fighting at the same time.
Yeah, I think the day that I don't get nerves is when I know I should be nervous, you know. That's complacency, and you can't have that. Like we're saying, you still need to grow, I still need to get better and stuff. But like that, the day that you think you know everything is the day that you know nothing, you know.
Your dad seems to be the perfect person to kind of to ground you, but also to make you realize, listen, you've done the hard work, you're ready, let's do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly, it is. You know,
I kind of feel like we need to be I kind of feel like we need to be getting Jerry on here someday too, as well, to have a proper chat, because I think it is something. There's a fine line between something Fergal McCrory said to me is he doesn't ever want his corner to be braver than he is, and it always, because having two daughters myself, I do wonder, not a chance. No, I can't. If you want to do it, I'm going to make sure you're going to go to the best person to learn, but I just don't think I could watch. And that's a contradiction in itself for someone who just goes to bed thinking about it, wakes up thinking about it, and does the whole day and work writing notes. Ask this question, ask her that question, ask him this question. It's a special sport, but I do understand when people say it's not for me. There's lots of other stuff, Niamh, that I could go on, and I love I love these open conversations, and thanks a million for giving us some of your time on it. There's a lot of stuff that you girls and guys probably can't explain, but one of the things that drives me mad is this selection thing, and I'm not going to ask you to get into this, but we're looking at the weights now again, and they're being divided. Why can't we have set of weights on both sides? Is there a reason why we can't have a full set of weights for the lads and a full set of weights for the girls and let it go? Is that something that might come down the line eventually?
I don't know. Like that, in my mind, the World Championships are coming up, you know, and it's ran in 2 weeks. The Olympics, it's ran in 2 weeks. You know what I mean? I can't get my head around it myself, and especially then with this 5 kilos for the lads, all the way up from lightweights. I think is like that. Yeah, it's making the sport a lot more competitive. But again, then it's making people do cuts that maybe they shouldn't be doing, you know, as well, because everybody's not as lucky to have a good idol or a good person in their corner to say, here, you know what, let's move up. Because as a boxer, we're all like, where's the weight that I can go down? Nobody's thinking about going up, you know. It feels like a defeat or something, you know. But I think, yeah, the 5 kilos now is a lot, especially for the lads.
Yeah, it's just tricky. It's like the argument 2 minutes and 3 minute rounds for the pros. To me, it's leave it as it is, because they're more exciting and they're more enjoyable to watch. But yeah, I just think that we're kind of cutting our nose out to spite our face, because we've got like, when you look at Gabriel Dawson and Keelan Cassidy having to compete at weights that just don't like it doesn't. And I'm saying this, listen, Too Smooth, and big happy birthday to him as well. I won't divulge what age he is. I messaged him the other night, and if ever a fella was named correctly, Too Smooth, Keelan Cassidy, mate, I can see it I can see the attire already. But equally, Gabriel Dawson, he beat a guy, and he didn't beat him. He beat Lewis Richardson. For that European. Lewis Richardson goes to the Olympics and wins a silver medal, and Gabriel is left kicking his heels at home because of that weight differential. And listen, you could probably go down through the girls as well. You're looking at some Caitlin, you're looking at Shannon Sweeney, they're all having, and yourself. You've got somebody in front of you, you've got people behind you, it makes it even more amazing that you have a camaraderie and a chemistry between you. At times, I'm sure there must be a bit like Roy Keane and Teddy Sheringham going at it in the corridors of the hotels. I just want to get it. But listen, it's incredible. But what's left for Niamh to do? I mean, I know that sounds silly because you're always learning, as you say, but I mean, what's next? What's on that list? What's top of the list? I think I know the answer, but what is it? What's next?
Well, again, I am going for LA, and I have my head fully focused. So yeah. So I have a sponsor as well, RFC Security, and like that I'm so proud to have them behind my corner, and they're looking after me for the next 4 years, and like that I'm giving everything to them and they're giving everything to me. But as well, um I'm after going through Olympic cycle, I'm after seeing the dedication, I'm after seeing the hardship, and you have to just take it as a positive that I'm after going through the rough and the rubble, and now it's time. It has to be my go, or as well, I'm ready for it,
Yeah,
I
no,
do have
fantastic to hear that you managed to get a little bit of sponsorship there. All right, what do they actually do, Niamh? Because obviously sponsors are vital for the small 1% that you don't have to worry about things. And what is it, RFC Security? Is it
RSC Security? Yeah. So they're like that. They're helping me out, so they're giving me a full chance to be able to train full time for the 4 years. Like that, like what I was saying, you're going against people that are training full time. You know what I mean? It's hard to have a job. I'm coming in, I'm wrecked. Then I have to go and do a 5K. Then I have to be up before you leave. It's impossible to compete. You know what I mean? So I'm so lucky to have them behind my corner that I know I can give this 100%. That I can be there when I need to be there. That I can rest. I can cover. I can do all them things that I need to do to get the best self.
that's it? It's the extra 1 or 2% that might make the difference between winning and losing at the end of the day.
Exactly, 100%. Because it's all small margins at this stage. It's literally who got the better sleep last night, and that's who's going to win tomorrow. Because it's such a competitive level. It's all about them little percentages, like you're saying, and for them to give me a percentage is just bringing up my game.
Yeah,
I'm fantastic to see a local company sponsoring their own, because, as I said, we've always championed local sponsorship, or even just the casual fan. Go along to a Jay Byrne show in the Red Cow, or support your local club. Even if you don't want to go, buy the ticket, support it, because without the support, boxing isn't what it is now,
Yeah, and I'll go a step further and say, and listen, I'll probably get slapped in the paw for this the next time I'm talking to Jay or the likes, but I go a step further. Maybe it's time to start looking at the idea of introducing exhibition matches and pro-am bouts before. And look, you girls are at a level now where you've got other things to focus. But imagine, like, I know what it meant to Ella Thompson last year to walk into the 3 Arena before a big event like that, and to be able to box a test match against fire, to be able to do the weigh-in, and just to be around that whole environment, because we can't just flip a switch and expect everyone to be a Niamh, to be a Dana Morehouse, or to be a Kelly Harrington. That takes many, many years of building these layers and building these, getting sick behind the curtain, as Beck Connolly told me so many times, or tears and going down to your dad and telling him you can't do this. There's so many layers that people, it's not just turning up, flipping a switch, and here I go smiling in the ring with my blue bonbons and my odd socks. That's masking so much, and it takes so much to get there. And there's still days that it's daunting to do it. So I would echo everything the two guys have said. It's a big, massive shout out. Give us the details for them, Niamh. We'll put their link in the show notes below. We'll do everything we can from this side of things. And I'm going to say it again, a sweet sponsor. We got to get a confectioner sponsor. We got to get a few more
or something like that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Like we said, it's all about the 1%. So if I'm going with my Bob Moms, that's another 1%.
There you go. And listen, it's a privilege for us, and we're going to do it a little bit more. It's something we did from the day one. It's to be able to work and interact with you guys, because I think it gets too easy at times for people to look at the pro game and to talk about the program. I think the amateur game is just as beautiful. It's just as special. And when we talk about tradition and we talk about heritage and we talk about the contribution to Irish sport and society, it's incredible. It's just incredible, and it's always great. And you're one of the few, as I almost kicked the place over, you're one of the few who, there's always a smile, there's always a good word, there's always a thank you or a thumbs up or something smile. And I'm sure there's days where you don't feel like that either, but it's a privilege. But I'm going to push you a little bit more. We're coming to this time of the year. Liverpool is coming up. That's going to be done in 2 weeks, which, okay, that's fine. What's next? The Irish elites are coming up. That's coming up the other side of Christmas then again? Or are we going to have turkey this Christmas?
No, it's coming out the other side of Christmas. So that's Christmas cancelled. But like that, you wouldn't want it any other way. You know what I mean? Like that, I live for the sport, so I'm looking forward to training. I might go the old school, hopefully a bit of snow, train through the snow, running mountains. But like that, the head will be down during the Christmas time, and yeah, hoping to come out the other side.
This, I'm going to say it. The elite title is next on the list. I'm going to say it. I'm saying it, right? It's next on the list for me. Not Niamh saying this. It's me saying it. And this is not an insult or a slight on anything. And, that's the one thing that we're next on the list for us before we go to LA in a few years' time. I say we going to LA. I said is an elite title, and that's me nailing it, and that's just calling it, right? So you can just smile and be polite and be the absolute diplomatic jar. I'm going to get into trouble for this, so I'm Matthew Kindle is a bad influence. Before I let you go, Niamh, talk about those trips where you make friendships, and Matthew was one of the first things he messaged. Oh, I traveled abroad. We went on trips and we went on tours.
Yeah.
The importance of those trips from an early age. Take boxing out of it. What does that do for a young athlete?
Yeah. So like you were saying, it exposes you, first of all. You're being exposed to all these different countries, and like the Russians are just easy ones. You hear about the Russians and you hear about the Germans and all this, and you just have, again, that mindset of what they're like. And then at the end of the day, you realize they draw blood. You know what I mean? They've got 2 arms and 2 legs, But again, it's that exposure, because it's so daunting, One thing my brother says, which I always take with me, it's very clever, I think, like that. He's like, if you were from Spain, do you think you'd be Spanish champion? I said, yeah. He goes, then you're going to beat the Spanish girl, He's like, do you think if you lived in Russia, you're going to be the Russia champion? I said, yeah. You know what I mean? He's like, why are you looking at the bigger picture? Why are you going world champion? Just take it country by country, step by step, So I think the exposure, most of all, is so important. Like I said, you don't just one day wake up and you're ready, you know what I mean? You have to go through them stages, like doing apprentice. You have to do the stages of the, of the work. And then second of all, like that, I've met so many amazing people, roommates, you know what I mean? The stories you have, it's just amazing. Like one of my very good friends would be Nicole Clyde. So I'm actually going away on a trip tomorrow. I'm going to Scotland for a training camp. But the excitement now, obviously I'm excited to box, but I can't wait to just go on that trip with her. We go for a coffee. We might even spar each other and give each other a good bash and then go, But
Brilliant.
they're the things that you look forward to. And they're the things
well, whoever loses the spar buys dinner, basically, is it?
I think I might put the 10 ounce on.
Yeah. I'll have the tomahawk, please. Thank you very much.
Yeah. But again, they're the things that are going to last forever,
Yeah, who's wearing the fly gloves and who's wearing the others on the way, and who's going to get who's really hungry today. I'm going to leave it this, Niamh, and listen. We could talk for hours, and it's always a privilege and a pleasure, and we might do it a little bit more often now. It's genuinely, I really appreciate it, and look forward to it for a while. I'll ask you the best and the worst places you've been to box, in terms of camps, and look, camps are probably not meant to be. They're by design.
You know what, Al? I'm glad you said camps there rather than actually boxing clubs, because you'd really get the.
Oh no, Jesus, no!
Jesus,
no way! Not a chance. I'm not that stupid.
I'd have to say the best place for me, I'd have to say, is Croatia. Like that, the sun was split in the skies and everything. But I also won my under 22 European gold there. And it was just back after COVID as well. So boxing was only starting back. So it was the first thing for me that I got back after COVID. So like that, it has fond memories. But then the same thing, I was roommating with Nicole Clyde. She was there with me the whole time, you know what I mean? And then after it all, with the gold medal around our neck, we were able to eat a bit of ice cream out in the sun. So it's definitely the best place. Yeah. And then, the worst, I don't know. I'd have to say, me and my dad, we went on a training camp to Russia. And oh my God, I tell you. So yeah, it was something else. It was definitely an eye opener. Like that. My fondest memory of it though was like that we had been given the food the whole time and we were getting used to it, And then all of a sudden they decided to have a barbecue, and the mouth was drooling then, and oh my God, best meat I had in my life. Then the next day we had to go back eating the same shite. So it was worse.
So all they did was they just teased you and then straight back to cardboard.
We were getting the swing, and they were like, I can't wait for lunch, you know what I mean? And we're like, can't wait for lunch in our own heads. We can't wait for lunch. Then lovely, barbecued sausages, the whole lot. Then the next day, back to the same shite.
Back to the porridge. You know something, Niamh? I spoke to Wayne McCullough. I've spoken to big Kevin McBride. We had him on here a while ago. We've spoken to Paul Griffin and all those guys. And it seems I'm starting to wonder, there's some sicko somewhere in the IABA or somewhere up there doing this all down through the years by design, because it's happened. They went to East Germany, they went to Berlin, they went to all these places, and they've all talked about the horrific chicken, the horrible showers, the cold water, the fucking weather. And while all the other guys are getting to stay in a nice spot. So listen, if it's anything to go by, those guys used it took it on board and used it to become the champions that they are. And I've no doubt in my mind, Niamh, that this is going to be something we're looking back at in a few years' time and thinking, she told us that day. It was what she wasn't saying that really spoke loudest. So I'm going to leave you before I leave you to it. And again, thanks very much, Niamh. Give us a shout out to the people that make the wheels turn for Team Fast Hands, for people that make things turn for you in terms of sponsors and anybody else that you want to give a mention, because as Ian said before, it's a big part of what we do, and it's vitally important to making sure that this story goes to the next level.
Yeah, so the main thing is like that the sponsor RSC Security Group are just helping me the whole way over to all the way up to LA, please God. And then like that, then it'd be unfair to just say names. So Phoenix of Ballyboughal is everybody, you know, it's such a club, it's such a community like that. I come from a small village, Ballyboughal, and like that when we come together, we do come together. So that covers everybody, you know.
I think there's a road trip on the cards here, Ian. What do you think?
You know what, I was just saying, because I was going to say, like, once you get kind of your business end out of the way, Niamh, we'd love to do a little trip out there, because I love meeting the young lads and the young girls to start with, because they are the future of the actual game. Yeah. And the younger they are, the greater the characters that they are. And sometimes they're just absolute lunatics. So one of the things we try and do in the show is we do a kind of a rising star, where we talk to 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-year-olds, just to see what makes them tick, regardless of how high profile they are or anything like that. So with you over the 5 to 8-year-olds, we might take you up in the offer and meet up and have a little yap with some of your next prodigies, you know?
No,
she didn't offer. I just been very pure rude and inviting myself. Poor me didn't even get a say.
I knew that. I was making it out like she did offer. So we'll go from there, right?
That's it. So my group are called Madison Square Playground. So they'd be more than delighted to have you down.
Yes. Awesome. And listen, while yourself and Ian are networking that, I'll be the whore that I am, and I'll go over and I'll talk to Tony, and I'll go and talk to Jerry, and I'll stick to all the other projects over, and I'll try and learn as much as I can in that kind of way. But yeah, Niamh, listen, it's been a real pleasure. Really has. I knew I was looking forward to this all day. I was looking forward when you text this morning. There's not many people who text me to remind me. So it's always been, and it will always be, a joy. And I say this without any, I'm biased. I'm unashamedly biased, part of Team Faye from day dot. And wherever this story goes and wherever this road leads us, Niamh, we're going to be behind you all the way. So count us as your pals, and count us as part of your whoring network, or whatever it is needs to be done. We're here to help whatever way we can in any way, shape, or form.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it so much.
Thanks, Niamh. It's lovely to talk to you.
Yeah, it was really such a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.